Real show, here we go. Real show, here we go. You know that it's gotta be that time, so this is what we chant. What keeps on getting them all amped in advance? Come on. You and I rocking out with Iron Man, F.E. You get the general's point of view on top of Roger's rants. Whenever tapping out, we're putting the most minutes in. You already know what that's about, you know that winners win. Crush whatever's on task, check the podcast. It's the champ and the tramp, let the bomb blast.
So we have Stefi Cohen with us today, 25-time world's strongest woman. Stefi's latest endeavor, as if that wasn't enough, she's now entered into the boxing world. I think you're 3-1-1, right?
Yeah.
Pretty amazing. I followed Stefi for a long time. If you don't follow her, everybody should. She pushes boundaries like you would never believe, and she really, some of these, lifts that she does, especially your deadlift, is absolutely incredible. What was your heaviest lift? I think it was with straps was like 501, right?
My heaviest deadlift was 550.
550.
Wow.
Crazy.
550 at 120 pounds.
Yeah.
She can lift you up, bro.
I think, what is, you look at you, through your social media and you just look like this absolute jacked, ripped monster, but you are pretty petite. You're only 5 feet tall, right?
I know. Yeah, I know.
That's
Instagram
crazy.
Looks can be deceiving.
For sure. I
People
thought Frankie
always think I'm much taller, much bigger.
Same with Frankie. I thought he was a monster till I met him.
It's an attitude thing, right?
That's it.
You just gotta act big.
I tell Roger all the time, we're looking eye to eye, buddy.
Everybody's the same size on the ground. That's what you say, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, Steph, what's? I mean, I know you're kind of new into the boxing world, but what's next in that realm for you? Do you have something else coming up in the boxing department?
Yeah, I have a couple of fights lined up. One of them is in June with UFC Fight Pass 360 Promotions. Awesome. And then the other one's going to be Madison Square Garden towards the end of the year.
Wow.
Same with 360. Yeah.
Huge venue.
Moving quick.
That's amazing. Is this sort of your new passion, your new love, or are you still like super dedicated to powerlifting? And
no, man, I haven't done powerlifting or powerlifting training specifically for almost 2 years now.
Oh, wow.
My last competition was in February of 2020.
Okay.
And yeah, I still lift weights. It's still a big part of my training. I do believe in kind of being a hybrid athlete and the benefits of resistance training specifically for combat sports. So I still lift, but it's a very different style of lifting.
Yeah. Now, do you find that works against you at all with boxing? Because obviously stamina comes into play. Your heart's got to pump a lot of blood to all these muscles, right? Does that?
It's an absolute hindrance.
Okay.
As much as the movements that you perform in powerlifting, which is your squat, bench, and deadlift, obviously those movements are going to be part of your traditional strength and conditioning program, or any traditional strength and conditioning program, because powerlifting and more endurance sports, obviously they exist on opposite ends of the physiological spectrum. So it is an absolute hindrance. Like for the last 10 years, because even before powerlifting, I used to be an Olympic weightlifter. So I've been lifting weights for 10 years competitively. And obviously it's a completely different energy system, then not to mention just the amount of muscle that I have, how not used to breathing heavy I am, the perceived sensation of fatigue also is really difficult for me to overcome. The adrenaline in the ring, as much as strength is important, there's no one-to-one relationship between strength and then punching power. That doesn't exist. When it comes to producing power, that is its own adaptation. It's its own skill. I honed in on the skill of producing as much force as possible for one rep in 3 very specific movements. And to say that there's going to be a transfer effect from that strength in that very specific movement to a punch, I mean, it's naive and it's uneducated. I personally, the main thing that I feel that powerlifting helps me with in boxing is confidence. Just knowing that I can lift so much weight and that I'm strong and capable, and just resilient. That in my head is a vote of confidence, but I have to undo a lot of things that I've been just training for the last 10 years. If that makes sense.
Yeah, well said. Do we expect to see a leaner, meaner Stefi maybe your next fight or?
Yeah, I'm planning on dropping down to 114,
Oh wow.
115, 112 in the future as well. I when I first started cutting down to 112.
Yes.
Yeah, I was saying I used to be pretty adamant on staying around 122, 118 just for the sake of preserving some lean mass, but I acknowledge just how not helpful that is, especially because just my size as a human. These girls that I'm fighting against at 122, they're dropping down from like 135, 140 sometimes. They're big. They're big, they're range, they're long, they just feel heavy.
Yeah.
So definitely 115 or 112 in the future for me.
Now, how much is your diet different now from when you were weightlifting to boxing now?
I feel that my diet has to consistently be much cleaner. Just the quality of the foods has to be much better because the training for boxing is so much more rigorous. 3 training sessions a day for the most part, with like running and sprinting and strength and conditioning and sparring and technical boxing sessions. So I feel if I have a beer, I feel it. I feel like shit the next day. So I feel like my diet has to be very clean. And now even more so because I'm trying to drop weight. So I essentially have to move my body's set point to whatever weight I've been weighing for the last 10 years to a new one. So I have to slowly decrease my calories. And I'm already a small person. So for me to lose weight, I have to be constantly consuming, I don't know, between 1,400 calories and 1,600 calories, which is really not a lot.
Especially with the workload.
I just have to be very aware of everything that I eat and keep it very clean.
Just from watching you on social media, you seem extremely regimented. Obviously, this is a lifestyle for you, but does Stefi Cohen ever have a cheat day? Do you ever, like, not when you're not in fight camp, do you ever go out and let your hair down and have a cocktail and maybe some maybe an appetizer, mozzarella stick here or there?
Yeah, I do from time to time, but it's very rare. I feel like I've gone to a point where I've consistently been living this lifestyle for so long that I don't even really crave it, and I feel like shit if I do. But of course, if I'm traveling or if there's an occasion, a birthday or a wedding or something like that, of course I'll be more in the moment. But strategically speaking, I do have one day of higher calorie intake, specifically higher carbohydrate intake. Just for the sake of refueling glycogen stores and blunting your hunger hormones because of being in a deficit for so long. So,
sure.
What's your go-to meal after a fight? Always gotta have one go-to meal after a fight.
It changes, man. It changes every time. But I usually crave pasta.
Pasta, yeah, I get.
So like a dirty pasta, like something with like sauce and cheese,
bolognese or something, right?
No, like cacio de pepe, the one that comes inside of a cheese.
Yeah,
that's bomb with truffle oil.
Oh, there you go.
What's yours?
No, I usually do a cheeseburger. I'm a cheeseburger.
Wouldn't it depend on like where your fight is? Like
honestly,
In-N-Out Burger.
No, but you know what it is? Honestly, it's whatever I'm watching Fight Week. I see on TV, and I'm like, oh, that's it. That's what I'm getting after my fight.
Exactly, it changes. It also changes based on how much you had to starve yourself and for how long.
Right. Yeah.
Steph, what has inspired like this drive in you? You have this remarkable drive and motivation. I feel like I read that you started kind of lifting at age 15. I think prior to that, you played soccer right for the national team in Venezuela. Like you seem like you've always been chasing this excellence, right? What was there a pivotal moment in your life? Your parents? What sparks this drive that you have? Because it seems to be just beyond what us normal mortals can imagine.
I don't know. I think there's definitely something to be said about being born with grit. I can't remember a time in my life where I haven't had a goal that seems ridiculous and impossible to other people. I remember being 8 years old and putting my soccer cleats for the first time and telling my parents very confidently that I was going to be a professional soccer player, and I sucked, but I wanted it so bad. But it's been like that for me specifically with sports more than anything else, more than my professional career, more than my love life, more than anything else. It's just being an athlete is something that makes me feel so fulfilled and so accomplished, and it's always been that way. I don't remember ever not being that way.
Yeah. Now, I know we spoke recently. You're in the middle of a move, sort of. I know Miami was your home. You're moving to LA. Does that have anything to do with training or boxing, or is there
everything? It has everything to do with training and boxing. I'm having a little bit of a pivoting and change in work, so I'm selling my shares of my businesses now to my ex-business partner, and so I really don't have any ties to Miami anymore. I've been there for 12 years, and I just feel like everything became pretty monotonous and repetitive, and I just needed a change. That was the first thing. And then secondly, especially as a woman in boxing, there's really not a lot in Miami, not even like sparring partners. So I visited LA a few times and was mesmerized by just how many female boxers there were that were willing to help and that were available, and also the coaching. Right now I'm training with Pedro Neme over at Churchill's Boxing, and the team is super cool. Have strength and conditioning, sauna, cold plunge. You have your assistant coaches. There's nothing really like that in Miami. So,
speaking of which, I think you and Frankie both have the same cold plunge, right? Polar Monkeys. I saw that.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah, I just got one recently.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah,
thing.
I work with them.
That's pretty cool. I mean, obviously, with your background, I mean, can you speak to that? I mean, we kind of know it a little bit. Frankie's more well versed. Can you speak to the health benefits of it to people who may not know?
Yeah, absolutely. Cold plunging and specifically contrast therapy, so using hot and cold at the same time, are both modalities that have a lot of research behind them to prove not only benefits on a biological level, on a cellular level, to increase your mitochondria. So the little thingy in your body that creates more energy, that creates more ATP, it spins and creates energy. So it actually makes it more efficient at doing that, meaning that you can work harder, longer over time, the more that you use the cold plunge. Obviously psychological benefits, just to callous your mind, do something hard every day and just get mentally stronger. It has really interesting effects to reduce your perceived levels of fatigue during training, which I found really, really interesting. Again, another kind of point into the psychological aspects of cold plunging. What else is there? The only note there for doing cold plunges is that it's not recommended to do it immediately after resistance training, because it might blunt some of the adaptations for strength and hypertrophy. But for the rest of the time, I mean, even for body composition, it increases your ability to oxidize fat. So it makes you better at using fat for fuel. So it helps get leaner as well. And it feels really nice. Especially so when you're doing the contrast therapy and you go from going into really cold water, which is a vasoconstrictor, while your blood vessels, get smaller, and then you go to the heat, which is a vasodilator, and that pumping effect helps move the metabolites from training out of the muscle and out of the circulation and into your lymphatic system for clearance. So just a lot of great data and great science behind them. I'm an evidence-based person, no bullshit type person. So I'll never promote anything that isn't, that doesn't have solid research backing, and just cold plunges and contrast therapy are at the top of my recovery preferences.
Is that how you usually go cold first, then hot?
Yeah. So, or hot and cold, it doesn't really matter, but I alternate between, I do as long as I can in the heat, like a 230, 240 degrees, like hot. And I stay there for literally until I'm gonna pass out, as long as I can. And it's interesting because it really mimics that feeling of being in the ring and like feeling like you're gonna die, it feels very, very similar. And I don't know, I just feel like it's such a massive win to be able to be in control of your breathing and of your mind and your emotions when you're in there. So I do those 20-25 minutes in the heat, and then immediately into the cold at 3 degrees Celsius, however 40 Fahrenheit or something like that. I use the real metric system. So right onto the 3 degrees for about 6 to 8 minutes. Sometimes I do it a couple of times back into the heat.
the sauna specifically also greatly reduces risk of heart attack, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like all cause mortality.
It's interesting because a lot of people with heart conditions avoid the sauna because it gets your heart rate elevated. It makes you sweat, maybe makes your blood more viscous. But I mean, look at Finnish people. Finnish people have one of the lowest mortality rates and lowest incidence of cardiovascular disease. So there is something to be said there.
I see, you know, obviously I follow Joe Rogan as you do. He pretty much rolls out of bed. And like he's like, if I can do this first thing in the morning, you know, I've tackled a huge feat for the day.
Yeah.
Bro, I don't know. Could you do that, Stefi? Right out of bed, get right into a cold plunge? I don't know if I could do that.
Oof, I mean, that's tough. That's really tough.
Yeah, I've been strong. I do what you do: sauna, cold plunge sauna. Do it at nighttime usually. In the mornings, I'm always telling myself I'm gonna get up and go in the morning, and that comes and goes like next morning.
There's a weightlifter that I used to be a massive fan of. His name is Dmitry Klokov, and I remember watching one of his YouTube videos, and he's from Russia. And this guy, he has right outside of his house has like just a natural pool, and obviously in Russia it's like freezing most of the time. And he says that part of his routine is legit. He wakes up, puts his robe on, and goes immediately into the freezing cold plunge that he has, natural spring.
I would think that the rest of your day has got to be easy after that, right? That's kind of what Rogan said. I mean, that's, you know, it's if you can do that right out of bed, the rest of the day is a breeze, you know?
Oh my God, absolutely.
Crazy.
Absolutely. And that's what it's about, right? And our slogan for Polar Monkeys is hard choices, easy life.
I like that.
And like Jocko Willink says, discipline is freedom. Do the hard thing now and then enjoy the ride afterwards, right?
Yeah. Do you find that to be true for you? I mean, this guy over here, I say to him sometimes, bro, you're driven by suffering. He's literally motivated by suffering. I don't get it. It's foreign to me. Maybe I am to a 1/100th of a degree of what this guy is, but you seem to be built like that too. You guys are just built different. I don't know that you can put it into words, you know?
There's what's the name of this book? Man, I'm blanking. Resilience. I forgot what the name of this book is, but basically
a cleaner about a cleaner, right? Is
yes.
Tim Grover.
Tim Grover.
Relentless.
I always say resilience. I don't know why, but yeah, relentless. So he talks about how there's 3 different types of people, essentially 3 different types of personalities, and the one that we are is called cleaners. And I mean, I don't know about you, but when I read that book, I felt so validated in being me, because for a long time it felt wrong to be the way that I am, like never feeling like nothing is ever enough, you know, reaching a goal and not really being happy about it. Like I'm happy, but it like the reaching the goal is not what it is about for me. It's the leading into reaching the goal, what it's about for me. It's that suffering, it's the challenge, is pushing yourself, is how much you grow through putting yourself in really uncomfortable situations and overcoming obstacles. Like that is what it is about for a cleaner. And it's interesting because society, I mean, I think society as a whole kind of is a bit lacks the understanding of how we are as people in that sense. And besides cleaners, then there's coolers, and there's what? Coolers and closers.
Closers, right? Yeah,
coolers and closers. So there's like people who need to be told exactly what to do, who have no initiative or no kind of thought process on their own. They need somebody to be telling them what to do. And then there's a type of people who maybe have the initiative but won't proceed unless somebody else tells them that they're doing the right thing.
I mean, it would be my general point of view that you guys seem to be diminishing greatly in this world. There seems to be less and less of you guys, and I think we're at a time where we need more of you guys, you know?
Absolutely. Well, the world would be pretty insane if we were all like that.
We could never. Not everybody can be like that.
I think we want that.
I notice obviously I followed you for a long time. You're very transparent with your feelings, your emotions, with your social media stuff. Sometimes you'll post some things and I'll read it, and you seem like you struggle sometimes. I don't know if that's the right word, but how much to show, what to show on skin. I know that you had a post where you were in your car. I remember you talked about you were approached by somebody that made you an offer for an OnlyFans, and you said, no, that's just not me. I can't do it. Obviously, you take some criticism over what you already do show. Does that ever get to you? Does that ever bother you? You seem very open with your emotions. You talk about it a little bit sometimes, and womanhood and what it means to you. And
Yeah, you know what? For a long time, just having a big social media presence came with a lot of criticism. And for a while there, I was purposefully trying to avoid judgment and criticism because it got annoying to me. But I've entered a new era of Stefi Cohen where there's zero fucks given, and I just decided that I'm just gonna speak up my word, like whatever my thoughts, whatever it is that I'm thinking, whatever conversations I want to have, whatever dialogue I want to start, I'm gonna do it. And yeah, this conversation is just super relevant for where I am in my life right now and in my career and just the current state of the world, specifically when it comes to OnlyFans and building an Instagram fan base. Like, you know, I opened my Instagram when I was, or in 2012, 11 or 2012. So it's a while. And from the beginning, like even from that time, I was so strict about making sure that I'm coming across always professionally. Like I wanted to make sure that I wasn't cutting corners. And I would see, you know, other girls from my generation that started around the same time, the ones that were being more risque with their content, were gaining so much traction. And I always felt so tempted to do that because I saw how far it was taking them in terms of just exposure and followers and opportunities and sponsors. And it was so hard to stay true to myself and just, you know, keep putting up content that has some sort of essence and value. And it was hard, you know. I had to hire a media team. I had to do research for my posts because everything that I say gets heavily scrutinized and criticized. So anything that I'm claiming, if it's fitness related, nutrition, physical therapy, or whatever, has to come with like sources. So it takes me a long time to my educational posts they can take a whole week from when I have the idea to doing the literary research to writing the script to filming it to post production. It's a lot of work, and I think that's the part that a lot of people, I don't think they understand when I say, yeah, taking showing nudity and showing your body is the easy way out. It is. It is, you know, and I'm not afraid to say it anymore. And I'm sorry if it offends people, but it really is, because building a following based on actual knowledge, credentials, skills, and talent is much more time consuming and requires a lot more effort.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's a lot more rewarding now. Yeah, right? I mean, do it your way.
To me, absolutely. I mean, yeah. I couldn't have bear the knowing or the guilt over the years of knowing that I consciously took the easy path. Yeah. So I feel great about my decisions and about how I've carried myself. What's interesting is, so about 2 years ago during lockdown, I was having issues in my personal life, in my relationship, and was like, we're separated now, but we were in the brink of a separation. And that's what kind of led me to start exploring my sexuality more. And the question that I had for myself and for the industry as well is like, okay, first of all, is it okay? I had a moral question. First of all, is it okay for me to capitalize on my sexuality and capitalize on my body? Is it okay to be posting pictures and knowingly be attracting fans and people on the basis of the way that I look? That alone makes me feel ill. It makes me feel bad about myself. So is it okay or is it not? And that's what led me to start that kind of exploration phase where I started doing a bunch of photo shoots in bathing suits and you know, way out of my comfort zone, things that I had never done before. And I thought that I would feel super empowered. I thought that I would feel confident and empowered and beautiful, but it felt gross. It really did. It felt gross. I felt heavily objectified. And it felt disingenuous, and it felt like I was just one more of the bunch, just taking the easy route, you know? And with those photos came offers from OnlyFans. Like I rejected a $60,000 offer just to sign up, like just to enter the platform.
That's the post I'm referring to. I saw you. Yeah. That was. You could see the internal battle almost as you were doing it. You could almost see it on your face that you were, you know, and you just adamantly made your decision that you weren't ever going to do that. You know.
And do you imagine how hard that is? Like I passed on so much money. The 60,000 is nothing compared to how much money I could have made. Look, one time I posted a swipe up on my story, That's on a question, somebody asking me was I opening my OnlyFans, and I said, it's here, swipe up. Like, that's what I said. And you know how many clicks that got? How many swipe ups? 15,000. Wow. I've been selling shit on Instagram for 7 years, and I've never in my life gotten that amount of response. So imagine. So it was 60,000 to join plus 6 months of matched earnings.
Wow.
Whatever I made was matched. And I mean, I could have made easily like $200K a month.
Yeah.
And plus the matching, that's $500,000 a month.
That's insane.
That I passed on.
Frankie and I have talked about this, you know, on the podcast before, and just as a whole for society, that can't be good to have, you know, that easy of access at your fingertips to sexuality and sexualizing somebody that is a real person on the other end. You know, porn is one thing. Like, porn is, they signed up for that. They signed contracts. They know what they're getting into. OnlyFans it's a little different. You're taking like the girl next door and you're sexualizing her. And I'm sure most girls, I would think, I mean, I don't know, probably start off like, I'm just going to post underwear pictures. And, you know, before you know it, they're full on because the money's insane. You know what I mean?
Of course, because attention is modern day's currency.
Yeah.
Like what are brand deals, sponsored deals? It's people paying you because you have the spotlight. That is what that is. Yeah. Right? And it's a zero-sum game. If I have it, you don't have it. So it's extremely valuable. Yeah. And girls have caught on to the fact that the more skin they show, the more views they get. And the more views they get, the more money they make. So it's I understand why they get into that, right? The problem that I see, or there's two main problems that I have with it. The first one, and this, I caught so much heat for saying this, and I'm going to say it again. There's a lot of OnlyFans companies that where you as a model, you're signed with them. Sorry. Where you as a model are signed with an agency, and then the agency takes care of the conversations with the guys. So imagine that you're taking advantage of this poor, lonely, vulnerable dude, and it's just like a fat dude just answering the questions for you, and it's not even you. There's not even a real.
How many times you talk to that fat guy, Raj?
Idiot. I've never ever subscribed to an OnlyFans.
Hey, I'm not judging.
No, I never have.
So that's one problem I see with it. The other problem is the decision to join OnlyFans as a young woman, like when you're 18 and starting OnlyFans. Like, how many 18-year-old girls getting into OnlyFans? You don't have the maturity to make that decision. Right. At that age. You don't.
You're making so much money. It's tough for these kids to walk away from something like that.
Yeah, I saw a girl that I followed, attractive girl, but I followed her because she was into motorcycles. Not going to say her name, not put it out there, but she was into motorcycles. She rode motorcycles. I followed her. Her husband also rides, is kind of like this, you know, stunt rider. But anyway, she did this post where she's sitting with her young son outside of her house, and she's doing like a selfie video, and she says something to the effect of, you know, I see all these girls doing this OnlyFans and taking their clothes off, and she's like, I just can't morally do it. You know, I have a son, and I wouldn't feel right about him. And fast forward, you know, she's like, it's hard for us to get by. It's hard for us to pay our bills. But, you know, morally, I just fast forward a couple months later, and she's got no, I almost feel horrible for it. She was so pressured into doing it. She ended up doing it. You know what I mean? Because it was a financial escape, you know, from where they were at.
Look, I feel like the financial escape is one of the few reasons why I would understand someone doing that. Like, there's a fighter in the UFC, a girl that I'm friends with on Instagram, who I had a conversation with her actually for a book that I'm writing called Beauty's Ugly Side, where I touch on a lot of these topics. And she was telling me that at the beginning of COVID, so she obviously couldn't support herself and her son solely with her UFC income. And so she had to have like waitress's job and Uber, and she had like 3 different jobs. But then with COVID, she lost all of those jobs and also the fights, because initially there were no fights happening. So she joined OnlyFans, and I feel like I totally understand that decision and the necessity to do something like that. You have to bring food to the table. You have a kid. You know, I totally get it. And it went against her moral compass. Like, when I interviewed her, I felt it in her voice. Like, she didn't want to do it, but it was the only option she had, and she makes killing now, and she's comfortable and doesn't have to have a million side jobs and can focus 100% on being an athlete, and can take her, can put her son in daycare, and she's chilling, and I mean, I think if I was in a situation similar to hers, where I don't have an education, I'm not prepared to do anything else, I have a goal of being a professional athlete, it's a pretty good job, you do it from the comfort of your own home, you're your own manager. I get it. I totally understand the appeal. What I'm encouraging people to think about is two things. The first one is living like a virtuous human involves having a sense of justice, and not justice in the legal sense, but sense of justice in the sense of making or understanding that your actions and what you're portraying to the world has consequences and has an effect on younger generations, like doing what's fair for the generations to come, doing what's fair for people around you. And I think that's something we have to be mindful of and be careful of what we're talking about and how we're referring to sex work and OnlyFans, and how much we are encouraging younger generations to do that, and for what reasons. That's the first one. And I totally forgot what the second one that I wanted to point out was. And the second one is emphasizing and encouraging women and anybody to gather valuable skills that are useful for society. And I mean, it's funny to me how a lot of people argue that being a sex worker is of value to society. I just can't see that, I just can't. I understand that it's capitalist economy, and there's supply and demand, and there are people looking for that. And so there is going to be a supply. But at the same time, it's like, I mean, I don't know, again, a conversation about morality. Do you consider that honest? Do you consider that value? I personally don't. At the same time, I don't judge people who do it. I don't, because everybody does it for a specific reason. Like I was saying, my friend in the UFC, I totally understand why she's doing that. But I don't think it should be encouraged as a first option. Like, you should be working towards developing valuable skills that can help you help other people, that can help you provide a service or start a business or get a job, I don't know.
Yeah. I'm with you. I don't judge. I mean, I believe in capitalism. I think that there's, like you said, there's a supply and a demand there, and but kind of like you, I don't think that I could date a girl that had an OnlyFans. It would be a little tough for me. Something about sitting next to her watching a movie on the couch, knowing that there's a guy at home right now pleasuring himself to a picture of my girl's butthole. I don't think I could do it.
Well, I could not do it.
I don't think I could do it.
No, I couldn't do it either. A lot of these, do you know who Emily Ratajkowski is? She's a model.
Yes.
Actor and model. Mm-hmm. She has a really cool podcast where she talks about all of these issues. And she had a girl who was on OnlyFans, who was on OnlyFans, who now isn't, because she was saying that it was affecting her dating life so much because guys would have a completely different perspective about them once they found out that she was on OnlyFans.
It's a preconceived notion that she's going to be sexual probably on your first date, and that's probably the furthest thing for the truth in a lot of cases. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It really has nothing to do with who they are as people, but the message that it sends to be on OnlyFans alone, just be on the platform. Because look, when OnlyFans approached me, they were like, look, you can post your training footage. You don't have to post any nudity. In fact, we prefer that you don't.
Oh, wow.
But at this point, it's...
Wait, and still offered the same sign-up bonus and all that? Wow.
Yep.
So you had the option to not show nudity at all, yet, and you still chose to not do it.
Yeah, wow. It's just because it has a reputation. The platform has a
just
reputation
the name,
that
I
never want to be associated with it.
Isn't OnlyFans trying to pivot though? I believe, right? They're trying.
I
know a couple, male MMA fighters that have OnlyFans, and they're definitely not showing skin. You know what I mean? I think they're showing training stuff.
But isn't the double standard interesting? Because
of course,
when a guy is on OnlyFans, you immediately assume, they're just posting their day-to-day life or their training or whatever. There's so many athletes that are now sponsored by OnlyFans. Imagine they're just posting their training and their prep for their fights and whatnot.
I think that's how it was supposed to originally go, and then people seeing what sells. Yeah. Unfortunately, and
Yep.
Kind of the opposite of that. Didn't Snapchat start out as like the place to send nudes that disappeared, and then it turned into a whole app that really wasn't about sending nudes? Yeah, it's like a messaging app now. Yeah. So kind of crazy. I don't know how we got off onto that subject, but listen, let's move on to another controversial one if you want. As being a lifelong athlete at the very top of your craft, how do you feel about this transgender starting to now compete in women's sports? You know, biological.
Didn't you? I seen something where someone weightlifting where they I don't know if it was our country or some country that was forced to allow men to compete in.
I saw, even I think equestrian now is allowing it. Like most places are, but you busted your ass your whole life, right? 25-time world's, hold the record. You could be almost decimated overnight by somebody, that was born a biological male coming in and challenging your deadlift record.
Not you, but some other biological male.
This guy. What is your, you're somebody that I feel like is well qualified to speak to this.
Yeah. I mean, look, from a scientific perspective, somebody who was born a biological male, even after going through rounds of hormone replacement, they still developed a male. Just their proprioception, their ability to orient themselves in space is better because they were born male. And that's something that no hormone replacement can take. So just developing as a male has its own significant advantages. Obviously now, there's another moral dilemma here, and it's the one of inclusivity, right? There's these people who, and this topic is dear and close to my heart. My stepbrother is transitioned from male to female. Her name's Lydia now, and she was an Olympic diver, and it's tough, right? Because not only did she have to part with her identity as male, but also with her identity as an athlete, and not being allowed to participate anymore in the sport that she loves, right? So I can empathize. I can empathize with that. Like, if I put myself in their position, I'd be pretty frustrated as well. I don't think I am qualified to, or not qualified, but I don't think my opinion should be taken as like the Holy Grail. It doesn't matter what I think should happen, but something should happen for that group of marginalized people to feel included in the community, in the sport. Because I couldn't imagine losing both my identity as an athlete and my gender. Yeah. That is so fucking difficult. So
I think that most of us can have empathy though, and still have empathy for women athletes as well, though. You know what I mean? It's not like we can't be empathetic towards both. Ways, yeah. It's not. I mean, at least that's sitting in this room. That's how we feel. But I don't feel like natural born women should be stripped of. I mean, you're looking at losing scholarships. You're looking at, so it's a fine line you walk there. And I thought that's why you're much better equipped to speak to this than I am.
And I totally agree with that. I don't think it's fair for a biological male to be competing against a woman. It's just, we're not the same. We really aren't, So in that regard, I don't think it's fair. What I don't like is how much the public criticizes the athlete or the transgender person instead of criticizing the institution that is making the decisions, because it's not their fault. Look, they're athletes. They want to compete. They want to participate. They want to be part of it. All right. Somebody figure out a way to make that happen, in a way that is fair for the other people, for women competing. I don't know. Is it opening like their own, their own category? Is it allowing them to compete but not allowing them to take records? Is it allowing them to compete but not allowing them to qualify to the Olympics? I don't know what the solution there is, but there needs to be justice for both sides. There needs to be justice for the transgender athlete. There needs to be justice for the woman athlete that is dedicated her whole life to her craft as well.
Yeah, I think certainly there's some viable options there that you just kind of mentioned that I hadn't heard before. So, yeah, and I do agree. Maybe that the criticism that the athlete gets is not totally justified because
it's not fair. They're not making the rules. They're not they're not making the decisions. They're not signing the papers. It's whoever institution is allowing them to participate. You know?
I do agree with you. However, there's examples like Fallon Fox, for example, who was born a biological male, got into the MMA world and actually broke a woman's orbital. Do I have that right? Orbital socket or jaw? What was it?
Yeah.
I mean, does some of the responsibility fall on, she's the one punching the girl in the face. So maybe I see what you're saying. I don't know how, it's tough because you want to be empathetic to, it's a tough one. Yeah, for sure.
If I was a transgender athlete, I personally wouldn't compete against a woman because I personally wouldn't feel like it's fair.
Yeah. But I hear you. So you've got 2 more fights coming up, you said?
Yeah.
When's your next one? The UFC Fight Pass, both of them?
UFC Fight Pass, yeah. June
hey,
8th.
you gotta let us know when the one in the Garden is. We come up.
Yeah, I'd love to come check you out up there.
We're not too far from there.
We're an hour away.
Yeah, amazing. I'll definitely let you guys know. I think it's gonna be September, October, or November, some month towards the end of the year. But yeah, I'll let you guys know.
I saw you yelling it's not yelling, but I saw you telling. It sounded like your dog was making a little noise. I read that you had a French bulldog that passed in 2017. I also had a French bulldog that passed in 2017. So
someone said that. No, my dog is alive, but my ex.
No, I read it. I read it. You want me to show it to you? I read it. Look. I'll prove it. I believe you. I'll text it to you.
I believe you. Have you ever searched what the internet says your net worth is?
Oh my God, I'm a millionaire. If you look it up, I'm a millionaire. You are too. Actually, I read it.
Yeah, I have so much.
Yeah.
According to the internet.
Frankie's is actually accurate. It says he's worth about $50 million. Yeah. That's spot on.
Yeah,
so.
Right. This guy.
That's funny, man.
Well, Steph, if anybody wants to follow you, check you out, I know. I think you said early on you're parting with your partner, right? You used to have a website where you could sign up and you could do like online coaching and stuff, but you're no longer affiliated with that?
I am.
Okay.
It's
you
not
are?
official yet.
Okay.
It's not official
right.
yet, but I am moving in a different direction.
If people want to follow you on Instagram, check you out, sign up to your website, whatever, tell people where they can find you.
Yep, you guys can find me at Stefi Cohen on basically all platforms.
Okay, awesome. Stefi Cohen. Awesome. Pleasure, Steph, having you on. I'm glad.
Definitely,
I'm glad it worked out.
Fan. Good luck in your boxing career. That's awesome. You conquered one endeavor or one sport, and now you're going for another one. So that's awesome. Very, very inspiring.
Much love, Steph. Much love.
Thank you, and thank you guys for the support and for the patience.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye, Steph.